live from the TRICHOMES.com studios in Southern California. It's time for your Morning Buzz. We bring you late-breaking news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the cannabis industry.
All right. Hey, happy Friday. Good morning. Hope wherever you're tuning in from, you're having a great day. We're live again from the studios here in Trichomes. Got the 91 freeway behind us. And here are the headlines for April 8th, 2022. So feds clarify that medical marijuana recommendations from doctors don't excuse positive drug tests. And in New York, marijuana businesses would get state tax break despite federal 280E provision under budget deal. And coming up last is Biden's Treasury Secretary says Congress's marijuana banking inaction is extremely frustrating, quote unquote. And we'll be getting into that here in a minute. Right now, we are rolling into Friday. Make sure if this is your first time to the channel, please like and subscribe. That really helps other people looking for the same type of cannabis information find us. So thank you for that. And we'll get straight into the first headline here as this format, again, that we're changing. I'm jumping on here. It's 7:33 probably when we went live. It's not going to be 7:33 anymore. Next week, we will be kicking off at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time each day. We've gotten the new intro down, and we got a couple other things ready, but along with some personal proclivities, and whoever saw yesterday's show knows that I had a little personal problem, fell down and hurt my toe. Dealing with a little bit of that still today, but yeah, going to be getting into it. And 7 a.m. you'll find us here every morning with the three top headlines as we see it, and then also based upon the comments and whoever's interacting with us that day, we'll be getting into state updates and so on and so forth, go further. So again, thanks for sticking with us here in the morning, and let's get directly into the topics. So first up, the feds clarify that medical marijuana recommendations from a doctor don't excuse positive drug tests. A top federal health agency is proposing changes to drug test policies for federal workers to clarify that having a doctor's recommendation for medical marijuana or any other Schedule 1 drug is not a valid excuse for a positive drug test. The proposal from Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services, SAMHSA, which is Department of U.S. and Health Human Services, comes in pair with notices published in the Federal Register on Thursday, basically, it looks like what they're trying to do here is make sure that the current policies don't give way to the current policies on urine drug testing focus on marijuana as a controlled substance, which for passive exposed secondhand smoke or ingestion food is not a legitimate medical explanation for a positive result. So what they're trying to do is, as these federal legalizations are happening and things are coming about with new rules, you've got people that are allowing for, cannabis to be on your drug test. You're allowed to have, dirty tests. Amazon's allowing for it. There's a few other companies jumping into it. The feds are starting to clarify their basically outline what their standards are going to be for working in the federal government. So right now, what they're saying is, hey, realistically, if you work for the federal government, just having a doctor's recommendation, because doctor's recommendation is just that. It's not a prescription. It's a doctor's recommendation. That doesn't excuse you for a dirty drug test. And I imagine that's in the realm of which they're talking about where the clearance levels ask for it, right? They had already clarified on some degree that basically they're going to stop drug testing in certain positions for cannabis. But when it comes down to the positions that they do test for cannabis, the recommendation is not going to be good enough to explain a dirty drug test. Let's see. So, for example, the director of national intelligence said last year that federal employers shouldn't outright reject security clearance applicants over past use and should use discretion when it comes to those with cannabis investments in their stock portfolio. Really, what the federal government has been doing in the past little bit is clarifying that, number one, if you've invested in cannabis, this current administration is not even looking at you as an applicant for federal employee, right? You can't do that. But now they're also saying, basically, we aren't going to employ you if you have a dirty drug test, regardless of you having a medical recommendation. It's not an exemption. It's not anything else. It's just a recommendation. And really, they're setting their foot down. This goes in line with the politics now. While it's not federal, but Washington D.C., outlawing and not outlawing, but prolonging legal sales and cracking down on the gifting shops. That's the area we're talking about right now. And really, the politics and the people surrounding that, they're still not having it. And until the rules change, until the laws change, they're going to probably be sticking with these archaic tendencies and sticking to, well, the letter of the law as it sits. Just, I imagine, for clarity. So, if you're looking at a federal job or you have a federal job and you have a medical recommendation, this channel's recommendation is to mind your P's and Q's. It's something as to where this isn't a progressive step, but it bears noting because there are a lot of people out there that have jobs within the federal government and or that are federally subsidized jobs, and it matters. So just be careful, be aware that right now medical recommendation does not cover what a dirty test for the feds. Next up, we have New York marijuana businesses would get state tax breaks. So we've talked about this in a couple of different fashions over the week. And yesterday we did a New York update, and just shortly thereafter, this article from Marijuana Moment came in and really kind of addresses the tax issue. New York lawmakers have reached a tentative deal on a budget proposal that includes provisions to let marijuana businesses take state tax deductions that are available to other industries despite ongoing federal ban on cannabis. We've talked about this so many different ways. The fact that they're addressing this on a state level and really looking at this as a business survival tactic, right? If you look at California right now, the taxes and the inability to deduct certain things, whether you're being a storefront dispensary or a manufacturer, you can't deduct anything that most other normal businesses can. And boils down to it, it's making it almost impossible, damn near impossible, for California businesses to operate, along with the other tax burdens that are going on. So New York's getting ahead of it, really, as we were discussing with their social equity program, and now this kind of informed tax discussion that they're having. They're really looking at what's going on in other states, and they're trying to figure out what's going to be best for their state. And hey, gotta give them credit where credit's due, because at least they're taking a look at it and not internally looking at how they can rake as much cash into the coffers from the situation as possible. Because really, whether you're looking at local municipalities or the state of California or that type of thing, taxes are the name of the game. Pulling in money is the name of the game. It's not about patient access. It's not about the medical marijuana anymore. It's literally about coffers filling coffers. And that's just kind of an inside joke here. But us scoffers sitting over here smoking weed, all they're interested in is making sure that they get their cut. And that's why it's been illegal so long. They couldn't make money off of it to replace these other special interest groups of which they represent so well. So yeah, well, I'll leave open some question time at the end for that if you guys want to talk a little bit more about the New York situation. But last up, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the federal stance and where we're really getting mixed kind of emotions from the Biden administration and the government, different representatives. When it boils down to the Safe Banking Act, people want it to pass. There's people getting shot. There's people being held up. There's all sorts of different stuff happening because this is a cash business, and it's letting people just kind of hang out there exposed. So the headline is Biden's Treasury Secretary says that Congress's marijuana banking inaction is extremely frustrating. I have to agree wholeheartedly. The Biden administration's Treasury Secretary says it's extremely frustrating that Congress has yet to enact marijuana banking reform legislation, adding that the department is supportive of the bipartisan Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act, which is the SAFE Act. Representative Ed Perlmutter, the sponsor of the bill, raised the issue with the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen during a hearing. The House Financial Services Committee on Wednesday, he brought up the spike in violent crime targeting cannabis businesses and the workers in legal states, just like what we were talking about. And Yellen didn't mince words. We have talked about it for a very long time, she said, and I agree with you. It's an important issue, and it's extremely frustrating that we haven't been able to resolve it, she said, adding that she appreciates the congressman's leadership in the topic. We've worked with you on this bill, the secretary said, and we're supportive of it. So, wow, right? Basically, they're really throwing this back into the Biden administration lap. They're saying, hey, you know what? We're working on this, and why aren't you? Why aren't you helping this get along? Because it's not just a matter of legal or illegal when it comes down to marijuana or public support or anything like that. It's a matter of public safety now. Right now, what they're allowing for by not drafting bills that or creating abilities for the states that have the laws to enact safe banking and or banking acts within their own states is really quite literally putting people at risk and danger when it comes down to these dispensaries and carrying cash from place to place. And it's seen as a cash business. Plus, the nature of cannabis itself is it's one of those things is people think they can grab it and go resell it. Good luck. The market's kind of shitty right now, but realistically, that's what it is. It's seen as a commodity and a cash grab. So based on the states having drafted these laws, first it's their responsibility, but really it's been so widely spread and the support's so great right now that it now sits on the feds to protect their citizens. And yeah, when it comes down to it, I'd like to hear what you guys say a little bit. Let's see. So DRS mental. Excuse me, I said mental. DRS metal. If Biden evolves in the 21st century and deschedules the plant, the Safe Banking Act wouldn't be necessary. Within that, I'm not sure. It would be nice if that would be the case, but whether it's medical marijuana, dispensaries and that kind of stuff, the exchange of cash is just so heavy at these different points where it's publicly known. I'm thinking that essentially you're still going to have to provide safety for the people who are providing the service and that kind of thing. I do know what you mean. There's going to be a lot more people growing it themselves, and the crime won't allow for the penalties for the crime will allow for more people to participate without worrying about getting in trouble for it and that kind of stuff. But the long and the short is if we keep with some sort of legal dispensing, those places will continue to be targets as well as the places that supply them. So if they deschedule it and let states handle it on their own, now the Safe Banking Act isn't necessary, but some sort of safe banking within the state still probably would be. Donkey Limit, long live the hypocrisy, and good morning to you too. yeah, hey, it's one of those things as to where we always knew that it was a money issue on why things were being left illegal, and understanding why there's been so many hoops to jump through and that type of thing. But yeah, the hypocritical standpoint of the federal government, um, it's never ceases to amaze, right? You've got so many people over here voting for it, and basically now you've got the rule makers, the people at the top, sitting there hemming and hawing on partisan issues, where ultimately this is a bipartisan issue. This should be an everybody issue, and it's a public safety issue now. And really, it's a quality of life. People in prison just for a plant only offense, it's ridiculous, and shouldn't be happening anymore. And realistically, they should have a case against the federal government for allowing this to happen for this long. Um, I am not a lawyer, nor am I giving legal advice. It's just ridiculous, and it's an atrocity that's been happening for too long. So really, when it boils down to where we're at as a nation, it has been overwhelmingly accepted as something that helps people out with their daily quality of life from a medical point of view. And that's not debatable, right? That's not debatable anymore. The specificities behind the actual medical attributes and what it's going to displace in big pharma and doing that kind of stuff, that's yet to be seen. But anecdotally, we know that whether it's mental health disorders, whether it's pain, that kind of thing, to each their own, to each their own. But it affects us in a positive way, which keeps us coming back, and there's less side effects, right? And I'm speaking about my personal usage and that kind of stuff. But when it boils down to, hey, I broke my toe yesterday. Did I go out and grab pills? No, I don't take pills. I have an addictive personality, and I like pills too much. I don't think I ever took them the right way. It says not to take them with alcohol, and I normally took them with alcohol. Yeah, cannabis doesn't allow for that. You smoke too much cannabis, you eat too many edibles, and then maybe you're eating more Doritos, or you're a little bit more thirsty. Realistically, I choose that over over pharmaceuticals any day of the week because they leave me feeling a different type of way. That shouldn't be something that people have to feel is illegal or not okay to participate in anymore. And right now, what you're seeing, and I'm really hoping that it's for the long term now, because essentially we've got these midterm elections coming up in November. There's a lot of posturing happening. Uh, if we can keep this momentum going to the next election, the person running for president or the Biden administration is going to have to figure out their real stance on cannabis and deliver this next time. I'm not sure that we're going to see legalization happen. I'm pretty positive we're not going to see legalization happen in this administration. I see decriminalization on some facet, the MORE Act happening, um, and I see hopefully some safe banking passage. If it's not done on a federal level, it's going to be done on a state level, and now you're going to have the states at odds with the federal IRS, the tax collection agency, because essentially they'll be giving these companies a way to um, go around the 280E bill, of which now puts the states directly at odds with the feds. They're causing this situation, and that's not our fault. This is what they're doing to the situation. Um, DRS metal, cannabis is medicine, flat out. That's it. It is for tons of people, and for those it isn't medicine for, it's recreational, and hence way it's something that is less detrimental than all the current recreational activities you can participate in. And I think the people who have used it for long enough all know that. So at this juncture, it is really time to, through channels like this, discussions like this, through discussions on the app like the TRICHOMES Community app that we have. It's about normalizing the conversation. It's really about taking us from where we were, um, in the early '90s and the medical aspects of it, and coming to fruition as to where what it's being researched by big pharma, so we can look at long-term medical things. It's allowed in its current form to be available to anybody who needs it, and the programs really, instead of taxes. We should be investing in programs for local and state municipalities to give back to the people who really brought this to the forefront in the first place, which is the medical patients, which is the people who showed that, whether it be epilepsy and or AIDS and or cancer, showed that through their use in cannabis, their daily quality of life was not only better, but in some cases, you know, they pulled out of the ailments. Right now, it's tough to say cure. It's tough to say anything like that definitive, because we don't have the medical research. We don't have the documented cases of which you can say this person was definitely cured by cannabis. But it's coming, as long as big pharma steps out of its own way and realizes we're going to get a piece of this anyway, unfortunately, because the way that the feds are going to decriminalize it gives them access first. All these different facilities here in California, the research, there's 1% or less that's concentrating on the medical values of it. And really, yeah, that wouldn't be such a bad deal, as to in a different segment here, is highlight some of these medical companies that are not of the big pharma variety, but are of the bootstrappers and the first round of cannabis, cannabis, I guess, purveyors and people out here doing brands and that kind of stuff in California and the different states, and highlighting these labs on what's coming out. THCA, right, is one of those ones where you have all the quality parts of THC without the psychoactive aspect of it, because it's still in its acidic form. It hasn't been decarboxylized. In my personal opinion, that's going to be one of those first ingredients in pharmaceutical drugs that can be isolated and shown to have a known value very quickly if they take the time to look at it. So really, they got to get out of their own way. They're losing the market one way or another. But realistically, it also looks like they're attempting to drown out the legacy market and the people who have brought this to a head right now. So that's kind of what we're fighting against. Guy Velasquez, it's all about the money for Big Uncle. Absolutely. And DRS Metal, I'd rather grow my own like I would any other vegetable. I would know what's in it. 100%. Homegrown tastes better for that fact. 100%. There's the ability to do that. There's the resources to do that. There's a lot of people who can't do that on their own, and that's going to be why it has to have some sort of availability to the normal public, though. Jimmy Austin, yeah, you can bet Big Pharmaceutical is going to be cashing in on Big Pharma's big piece of shit. I'm, can't disagree with you there. No lies detected. Yeah, and cannabis alleviated your Xanax withdrawals. It's one of those things as to where really you can't turn a different direction or talk to someone really anymore, especially in California. I guess, I can only speak from my position here and who I talk to and that kind of stuff. But over the last 10 years, the reality's gone from, oh, you work in the cannabis industry, to, oh, you work in the cannabis industry? I know someone who has cancer and did this. I know someone who uses it for this. I know someone who is doing CBD because for stress reduction and that kind of stuff. It's people are all over the place. They're gaining knowledge about it every day, but long and the short, it's becoming tougher and tougher here and in different states to find somebody who doesn't have an extended family member, a close friend or something like that, where they know somebody who's being better for it. And they're not talking about people, oh yeah, my kid just goes smokes weed and plays video games all day long. That happens as well, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who are affected positively by this. And it's tough to find people. We've talked about 91% of the US backs legalizing this for medical purposes. Again, why is that? Because it's tough to find someone that doesn't know anybody who's not being positively affected by this plant, right? When it comes down to it, it's not a cure-all, but it definitely can be a band-aid for quite a few things and help you through quite a few ailments, more so than any other type of pharmaceutical, which are all pinpointed for specific ailments. So I've gone on a little rant about this one, but I know this is a near and dear subject to not only myself, but everybody here in the comments, everyone on our channel. So I wanted to expand upon that a little bit more. Um, I want to make sure, again, if this is your first time on the channel, go ahead and hit that like button. Please subscribe. We've got more stuff coming. There's a TRICHOMES Community app too. We'll have the link usually at the top of the page, and/or we'll make sure that it's here in the description afterwards. And go ahead and sign up for it. It's invite only still. We're in our beta. Let us know what you think about it, and throw some emails our way at info@trichomes.com once you check it out. We're trying to build more activity on it, that kind of thing. But there's a news feed we aggregate there, and then there's a community feed as to whether it's plant shots or just hanging out in session together, that kind of thing. We are a cannabis platform, not a cannabis friendly platform. We're a cannabis platform, and I think that's what differentiates us on the social media level and that kind of stuff. So please check us out there, and make sure to tune in if you have time today to tune back in at 12 PST. We're going to have it's our weekly roll up with John Bond, co-host, and every second week of the month we have Steve Hopkins as an additional co-host for us, and he comes in from the United States Cannabis Council, and he goes over stuff like this with us. So we'll be really digging into the differences between the MORE Act and the Republican bill, what we just talked about this morning, and how it affects what's going on not only in Washington, D.C., but on a federal level. So yeah, please tune in again for the weekly roll up here, 12 PST, and there's the link across there. As far as getting in, again, it'll be in the description at the end of the show. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Really look forward to being on time myself on Monday, again, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll catch you all either at 12 or next week. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Be well. Thanks for tuning in.